here with Alicia Storie, who's an interior designer, and she set up her own interior design company. She's going to answer some questions and guide us through some of the pitfalls and some of the challenges that are involved in with designing kitchens and just generally looking at how people can reinvent and redesign spaces at home. So good afternoon and thanks for joining us, Alicia.
Thank you, Carl. It's lovely to be here today.
Excellent. So tell us, Alicia, what led you into interior design?
So I would say, like, at an early age, I always had a passion for art. And then I went to study at Duncan of Dornston in Dundee.
Yeah.
And I studied art for a year, and then I specialized in interior design because I just felt that when I went to the department and had a look around, it really resonated a lot with me as well. So yeah, I would say that the course that I studied was fantastic and really gave an introduction into interior design, and it led from there.
It's been a very turbulent year for everyone around the world. How has the pandemic affected you?
So actually, prior to setting up my own business, I was traveling for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to do was to move towards remote interior design and do and kind of be anywhere in the world, like not necessarily in your office behind a desk doing interior design. But at that stage, it was very hard to convince people of the value of remote work. But actually, the pandemic has flipped that on its head, and now people realize that you don't necessarily have to be in one fixed location.
How long has your business been running?
So it's fairly new. So I worked in London for 4 years, and then my business is probably a year and a half old, so it's very young. But yeah, it's been a very exciting journey to try and transfer the skills that I had before from within a company into the world of self-employment. But I love it. It's really good fun.
And before we delve into the business you've set up, what kind of projects did you get involved with when you were working in London?
So in London, I worked for quite a creative studio. So I worked with some clients. For example, I did Expedia, the travel company. I did their office in London. I worked on Jaguar Land Rover's offices. I designed an an innovation centre for the NHS. And I also worked on a very vibrant, colourful hostel for Accor Hotels, which is based in Paris. So quite a range, quite a mix of projects when I was there.
Yeah. So you then went on to start your own business. What inspired you to set up your own business?
So really, when I was working in London, I loved my job. But what I realized was how big a carbon footprint traditional interior design has. So I began to travel and research different ways to build architecture and interior design in a sustainable way. And then after kind of learning this, I felt like I couldn't go back to a traditional interior design job. So yeah, I decided to go down the journey of mixing interior design and sustainability together, and that led me to set up my company.
Fantastic. So what's the secret to the success of your business?
So for me, I would say I really love people. I'm quite a sociable person. So I think communication really comes down to the core of like a successful output in terms of interior design. So when I work with someone, I ask a lot of questions at the start to make sure that we're on exactly the same page, and that I create a solution which is completely in line with their expectations and goals of the project.
So what does eco-conscious interior design mean, and what's your interpretation of it?
Absolutely. So essentially, I look at three main principles when it comes to eco-conscious interior design. So I look at interior enhancements, energy efficiency, and waste reduction. So interior enhancements include looking at the existing space and building on what's already there. So you add a layer of interior design rather than designing for the sake of designing. And then when it comes to energy efficiency, you look at the space in general, how it functions, and see if you can make it more efficient by, for example, retrofitting a layer of insulation, or for example, looking at the kind of experience of the space, the layout of the space, locating heaters away from doors so there's less heat loss, adding windows and blinds, all of this side of things. And then looking at waste reduction, I look at how can the space function more efficiently to reduce less waste. So for example, I often suggest to clients that they have a compost bin on site, so they can take the food waste and compost that and make that into soil for their own gardens. So I essentially do consultation as well as interior enhancement to make the space as green as possible.
Brilliant. So it's all these are practical ideas and suggestions and things that customers can do themselves once they've been guided through it, and once they know what the principles involved are.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, Carl.
Okay, so what in terms of steps, how do customers really start that process? How do they get themselves or how does the space that they're looking at transform in? What are the first stages?
So essentially, I can be as like involved or not involved as the client needs, depending on the client. Some people ask for just purely some consultation, so they might want to look at the existing space and have a few tips over a call similar to this setup, which is absolutely fine. They can pick my brains, ask me questions on how to improve it. And then other projects, I'm very hands-on and involved in the whole process. For example, I just finished a B&B design in Ballater, and for that I built a lot of the furniture, I upcycled a lot of things myself, and I was incredibly involved in the whole process. So yeah, it's really up to the person if they want like a light touch or a full sustainable design service.
Okay, so say I'm in my kitchen and you're in your kitchen. If someone's looking at either updating or refreshing or completely changing their kitchen and making it more functional and making it more kind of at home and more in character, what are the key stages for them, or what should they consider?
Okay, so essentially for a kitchen remodel in general, I always recommend, like I mentioned before, is to start with what you already have. So see if any elements can be salvaged. And if you are ripping at your kitchen and starting again, then there's often places you can sell your kitchen secondhand or donate your kitchen, so that then gets reused and you extend the life cycle of that. Then I always mention to plan your layout with priority, as this has a big impact on how you use the space, and it's really important that your layout reflects how you use the space. So for example, think about like where you would like to prep, where you'd like to cook, where you serve things, like displays, all these different elements. If you kind of start to map out your behaviors in the kitchen, then you can create a layout to reflect that. Then I would say to look at your appliances. Can they be reused? If not, if you want to buy new ones, opt for energy efficiency appliances. Seek out secondhand materials and furniture. You can choose beautiful textured reclaimed woods for your kitchen. They're not only kinder to the planet, but they also add so much character as well, which is really lovely.
I read in the Guardian newspaper a couple of weeks ago, and it said that wood was one of the best, or natural wood was one of the best materials to use in the kitchen. Why would that be the case?
So wood in general, you have to be careful with, but it is a great material. But you want there's some certain certifications that you can look out for, which show that the wood is sustainably sourced. So if you look for a label which says FSC, that means that the wood is being sustainably sourced, which is great. So that's a good one to look out for. But to be even more sustainable, if you, like you mentioned, if you look for reclaimed woods, then that's even better, because it's already the tree has already been cut down, it's already been used, and then you're repurposing that again instead of that going to landfill or other routes. So essentially, yes, reclaimed woods are a fantastic eco solution for kitchen design, for worktops and different elements like that.
Obviously, you're highly experienced. You've got lots of projects. Why would a customer, or why would someone use an interior designer and not try and go through all these processes themselves? What added benefits does an interior designer bring to someone who's looking to change their space?
Absolutely. So it really comes down to maximizing the potential of the space. Interior design comes a lot with experience. I remember the first project I worked on, it was quite overwhelming, but then after hundreds later, the process seems very smooth and transparent. So essentially, yeah, really the value is to get the most out of the space, really maximize every inch of it.
Many people don't have large kitchens, so, and that's where the time is spent, and that's where there's a lot of food, presumably a lot of appliances and lots of movement, lots of things happening. So I guess they need to make things efficient.
Exactly. And for example, I just worked on a tiny house design. So they really had such limited space. So we really focused on making every single surface almost have two functions. So everything was multifunctional, and the space worked very efficiently, even though it was a tiny space. And the fantastic thing about that is the smaller the space, normally the smaller the carbon footprint, because there's less materials needed to make it in general. So absolutely think that yeah, it's just gives you that sort of second eye and helping hand to make sure that the end goal is exactly how you envisioned it, because the construction process has a lot of hurdles along the way sometimes. So yeah, it's just that extra opinion.
Okay, so how can we and how can our customers make use of your expertise?
Essentially, what I can do is help people to understand which combinations of furniture would work best to create their dream kitchen. So, for example, I know that you have a lot of different storage on your website, like big cupboards and armatories, and they are fantastic, for example, for creating freestanding pantries. And I have lots of ideas of, which I've done some mood boards as well, of ideas of how they can be organized within, so that you have a place for everything in your kitchen. So within the pantry, you could use other storage requirements, and mix and match different products to create a very unique identity, which doesn't look like something your neighbor could also have. It's completely tailored to you. So essentially, I'm just there as a kind of an extra set of eyes and a guide for any questions, because especially when you're creating a vintage bespoke kitchen, there is a lot of variables. So I'm there to sort of suggest which could be used in combination to create a kitchen that really reflects you and your needs.
Excellent. Okay, so you offer online consultations. How do they work?
So it's all done over Zoom, really. So essentially, it's an hour consultation, and people just tell me their brief. So I ask a lot of questions at the start, as I mentioned, and then after that, we get to the real core of their project, what they really need from that. And then I talk them through a series of suggestions on how we could make that happen, and set out a plan of action of what they could do to get to their end goal, and also a suggested shopping list. So I give them some ideas of which components could be brought together to make that happen.
So what we're going to do, we've teamed up with Alicia, and what we're going to do is to offer a free 30-minute interior design consultation session with her over Zoom, and she'll be happy to discuss people's plans or any ideas they might have in terms of kitchen or any other part of the house that they might have. Customers can can book directly on the online form, or they can contact us by email or any of our social media tags. So if you're looking to create a space with character and charm, one that's been really thought through in terms of making sure that you're using as much as you can of your previous kitchen, making sure that you're as conscious as you can about sustainability and not wasting too many of our scarce resources, then book and we'll arrange a session with Alicia for you.